Well, this is Ed Stetzer Live. I'm Ed Stetzer, your host. I also serve as the Dean of the Talbot School of Theology. And in a strange twist, I actually teach twice a year at Wycliffe Hall at Oxford University. So I'm actually on the road. I'm actually down in Florida. I just spoke at the Association for Biblical Higher Education. Got about, I don't even know, several hundred presidents and provosts and registrars of these wonderful schools. I mean, it's just great to hear the stories of what's happening in the Bible colleges and the seminaries of America. They asked me specifically to talk about the cultural moment and how we navigate the cultural moment. But boy, it was just a great time to be here. But if you're in the Orlando area, I'm preaching at Northland Church tonight and tomorrow. We'd love to have you. And so, but again, let me jump in and have a conversation with our guests. You may have noticed that the show has fallen on a particular day when love is in the air. It's Valentine's Day weekend, and now Valentine's Day. And so we wanted to bring in some folks who are relationship experts. Now, what's great is at the Talbot School of Theology at Biola University, we actually have a center for marriage and relationships. And the leaders of that center have agreed to join us today in our conversation. Dr. Chris and Elisa Grace have been writing, teaching, and speaking nationally to thousands and thousands of couples, families, college students on healthy Christ-centered relationships. They founded and direct the Center for Marriage and Relationships at Biola University, where Chris is also a social psychologist professor, and Elisa is an adjunct faculty member. They're sought-out speakers for notable groups like In-N-Out, UC Berkeley, Yale Law School. They serve on a national speaking team for both family life and focus on the family, and they co-host the popular podcast, The Art of Relationships. So let me say welcome to both of you to Ed Stetzer Live.
Oh,
Thank
thanks,
you,
Ed.
Ed.
It's good to be here.
We're delighted.
Well, I'm in Florida and you're in California, so it's actually not terrible here because it can be terribly hot in the summertime, but I know it's paradise always in Southern California, so it never rains. I think it's actually supposed to rain Monday, but nevertheless,
Yeah.
I wish I was there with you, but I'm actually Donna and she's visiting her mom in Orlando, so we're gonna get together for some Valentine's Day dinner tonight. So excited about that. So I just wonder, as relationship experts, start with you, Elisa, as relationship experts. Do you get more calls around Valentine's Day, or is it just sort of like relationships are something that happen every day and there's always ongoing conversations? How does that work for you?
Yeah, that's a great question because you would think that there would fall more on this day. My guess is that because it's such a hyped up day, that it leaves a lot of room for disappointment sometimes. And so my guess is that we're probably going to get a few more calls in the next week or two as the reality kind of sets in that maybe this relationship isn't measuring up to what I thought it was going to be. But it stays pretty steady throughout the year because, gosh, people are always going to have questions. They want to do it better. They want to have really good, healthy, Christ-centered relationships. And so it stays pretty steady throughout the whole year.
Yeah, I would imagine that there's always this sense of people having questions about relationships. It just makes sense. And I'm interested, Chris, tell us a little bit how, you kind of got into this space, but share your own marriage story and, what shaped your passion for helping couples?
Yeah, we were faculty, brand new. We'd been married 1.5, maybe 2 years, and we get our first request to speak to college students about marriage and love. And so here are these two, upper 20-year-old people who've been fully marriage experienced for 1 year. And we're up there talking to people, and students who want to know more and more. And it really, what it did was it allowed us this opportunity to begin talking about our journey, our marriage, and what we are learning on the fly. So we had actually only met at a wedding. She was from Texas Tech and Baylor, lived down there at school. I'm from Colorado State, Colorado area. And we met at a wedding, and I pursued her after the wedding, wrote her letters, and she wrote back. And within a year, we were married after that wedding, after meeting. And, we only saw each other 5 times before we got engaged, I would drive down there
No.
on my motorcycle and see her. And then we saw each other 5 more times after we got engaged because it was just, such a distance. And we tell our kids, don't do it that way. Get to know somebody first better than we did. And, but we knew right away that, this was something that we were going to love, starting a life together and finally being able to be in the same town, in the same home. And, boy, I tell you, we don't even call ourselves experts. We call ourselves experienced because we went through a lot just learning about each other. So that's our story with meeting that way. And I think what ended up happening, Ed, is we learned a lot about what a friendship is before. All of our courtship is in letters. There was no such thing as the internet back then. And so we get to go back and look at that and see, some of the early mistakes we made. And if we had known then what we know now, we feel like we could have been so much more happy and successful early on. But it's been a joy, 38 years now. So.
Oh, that's great. I love that. 38 years. Yeah, we were at 38 years. So or 39 years. We're maybe a year ahead of you. It's so funny. We forget. Yeah. We sometimes, we were just saying we're coming up on our 40th anniversary. We're coming up on our 39th anniversary. So we gotta remember these years. You get older, you start forgetting. Lisa, to you,
Yeah.
Was there a defining season in your relationship that made you guys realize that you needed some better tools in your marriage and relationship?
Oh gosh, there sure was. In fact, I can still see in my mind's eye where we were. We'd probably been married a little over 5 years, 5 or 6 years. We had just had our second baby in 20 months, and she was probably about 5 months old. So we had a 1.5 year old, and we had maybe a 5 month old. And I can remember we were sitting out on the back porch. The kids were in bed. It was nighttime. We were sitting out on our back porch in the dark, side by side, quiet. And I just remember telling Chris, you know what, buddy, I am not happy. I'm not happy. I don't think you're happy. And this is not what I signed up for. We were just under a lot of stress between both of us working, having young kids, finances, of course, money was tight. There was more month than there was paycheck. And I think the stress of trying to juggle a new baby, it just conspired against us. And I felt like I had reached my breaking point. And as I shared with Chris that night, that wow, something has got to change because we can't keep doing what we're doing because it is just not working. And he completely agreed. And so I think it was at that point that we realized, hey, we've got to be really intentional about investing in this relationship because it's obviously not just going to happen. And we can't just keep putting it on the back burner, which is that's such a temptation when you're busy working and you have kids and they take up all your time, your attention, your money. You're just trying to keep your head above water, much less, creating this vibrant marriage. And so that was the point that we realized, wow, we're going to have to do something different because we can't spend the next 60 years like this.
For sure, for sure. I will tell you that the most difficult time of my marriage was when we had little kids, the smallest kids, because we were exhausted.
Oh, yeah.
And I just had to hold on. We had to hold on. It got better. Marriage is a series of wonderful ebbs and flows. And right now we're just brand new empty nesters, and we couldn't be enjoying this season more. But I understand some people, that's some of the hardest time for them. So I guess it's just different based on people. And we're going to invite folks, our people, our folks in our audience, to call in. Basically, we're talking about marriage and relationships this Valentine's Day weekend. Our phone number is 877-548-3675. Yes, I don't think we've done this in like forever. This is Relationship Call-In Advice Day. It is 877-548-3675. Let me say it one more time. 877-548-3675. Now, it's interesting, there are a lot of things that sort of shape, some of the conflicts that we have. But one of the first questions that for a lot of people have is like, what's normal? What's a normal level of conflict? Like, how do I know if we're like fighting too much, or maybe, you know, one's a doormat and the other's walking all over the other one and they're fighting too little? What's normal?
What a
Oh,
great
I didn't say
question,
that. Let's
because
go to
I
Chris
think,
on that one. Sorry, I should say who to ask. Sorry
oh,
about
yeah.
that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Well, I think, Ed, what you're getting at is what every couple wants to know is this what everyone else faces? Are we the only
Mhm.
ones? Why does he never talk to me? Why, or why am I always trying to pursue her? And why does this cause such argument? Or is the conflict about dishes, is the conflict about raising children, is the and those conflicts seem so important at the time. Is everyone else doing this? And I think what's really encouraging for most married couples young is to recognize that they are going to have conflict. Every relationship does, and it's not a sign of a poor relationship or a poor marriage. Really, it comes down to how they manage this conflict, right? And I think it's that's the key. Conflict, we don't worry about it when couples say they have it. They have different personalities, and our conflict was always about Elisa, for example, being an extrovert and always wanting to go and do and be with people, and mine was, I'm a little bit more introverted. I'd rather stay home and watch the Dodgers play baseball. And I think what happened was we tried to change each other. And our conflict was really surfaced around, well, how come you don't see it my way? Why do you always want to do it this way? When we finally grasped, Ed, that it wasn't so much that we were different. In fact, that was the beauty of marriage and relationships. It was that we needed to stop trying to fix each other and fix that change and expect her to be like me and want the same things I wanted. And I think at that moment we realized, okay, we are different. We're going to have conflict. We've got to figure out how to manage this because we'll never be the same person. And so when we heard the stat, Ed, that 70% of all of our conflicts will never be resolved, it was so kind of discouraging at first look, right? 70%, said this expert, John Gottman, who's a wonderful marriage researcher up in the Washington area. And that's when we kind of dawned on us, wait a minute, if it's not resolvable, we're never going to, see the world the same way. The goal then isn't to decrease the conflict. The goal is to manage it and learn about what can I do, how can I give, how can I, accommodate this very different person than me. And Lisa, I think that was our big breakthrough, is when we figured out that arguing about the dishes was a little bit deeper than just the dishes, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's never just about the dishes. It's never just about the kids or just about your in-laws or just about sex. There's always something deeper that's going on. There's a deeper emotional button that's getting pushed during that conflict. And we all have them. And I think the thing that really began to turn the tide for us was when we realized there's something deeper going on. And usually that deeper emotional button is being triggered because of a way that we grew up, something in our family of origin. There was a wound that we received on our heart, a lie maybe that we received from our parents that was written on our hearts that just became a deeply held belief that's so deep sometimes we don't even realize we have it until that button gets pushed. And then we keep arguing on the surface about the circumstance until we learned, wow, here's an opportunity for me to really hear Chris's heart, go deeper, and actually this is an opportunity for me to gain a deeper understanding about his inner world, how he's wired, what's going on for him in his heart. And then to invite the Lord into that space to bring, either through me or along with God, with him, to bring deep healing into those wounded places in our hearts that get poked during conflict.
So good. So good. Okay, we're going to continue our conversation with Chris and Lisa Grace in just a moment. And remember, we're taking your calls. your calls at 877-548-3675. Again, that's 877-548-3675. We're talking about relationships. Where you got questions about how to navigate them, how to manage them, how to walk through them. Give us a call. We've got some experts. 877-548-3675. Stay with us as we continue our conversation about relationships. All right, we're back. Ed Stetzer Live. I'm Ed Stetzer. I'm actually the dean of the Talbot School of Theology at Biola University, but every Saturday I get to be your radio host. And part of our team there at Talbot and Biola are Chris and Lisa Grace. They lead the Center for Marriage and Relationships, and that's what we're talking about today is relationships. And I got to tell you, Lisa, I want to come back to you. The idea that 70% of conflict is not resolved is really, it's life-changing and it's liberating and it's freeing. But help me think a little bit more about, how do we get through that? Like, do we just sort of like, okay, fine, you do you and you do, I'll do me. And so saying that can be discouraging, particularly if it's not resolved. What does that mean? That it's ongoing? Are we in a constant state of conflict? Unpack that more first, Lisa.
Yeah, I think what we have to do is realize that we've got to really change the way we think about conflict. Instead of seeing it as it's just a problem to be solved, we just need to fix it and move on and we'll stop fighting about it. But actually, what we want to do is help people see this as an opportunity for your relationship to grow deeper with a deeper understanding of each other's hearts. Because when we have conflict, it gets poked. Our heart gets poked. And it shuts down. We close down our heart. We're angry, we're hurt, we don't want to listen, we run and hide, or maybe we lash out in anger. We might just withdraw into silence, but our heart closes down. And so if we can begin to think of this as an opportunity for me to get to know my heart, why is my heart closed down? What is this emotional button that's getting poked for me? And then inviting the Lord into that space with me first to say, Lord, search me, oh God, know my heart, try me, know my anxious thoughts. What's going on for me? Lord, why is this making me so angry? Why did that throwaway comment from Chris hurt my feelings so bad? And I can begin to just sit and listen quietly. And lo and behold, the Lord will bring events or scriptures, or I just sense his spirit speaking truth to me. And so I've invited the Lord into that place to bring healing. And now I can share that with Chris and say, when you threw that comment about maybe about the way I'm driving, you were probably right. I was probably going too fast, and I should really watch my speed. And, I think it just reinforces this message that I sometimes got when I was little, that I'm not good enough. I don't measure up. I'm incompetent. And Ed, those are lies from the enemy, those deeply held beliefs that I just mentioned a while ago that we tend to take to heart and we carry with us. And even though Chris wasn't saying anything like that, that was the filter of the message or the scar on my heart that I interpreted that through. And so when we think about that 70% of conflict that is not resolvable, what we want to help couples understand is you can't change the way you're wired. I'm just more free as a spender. Chris is a saver. As he mentioned, introverts. I'm tidy. He's a little bit more messy. He's spontaneous and just a risk taker. I'm a little bit more structured. I want to kind of know the cost and risk benefits before we venture out. Those things are never going to change. However, when we get to those underlying emotional buttons and why they're getting pushed, when he wants to spend money differently than I want to, then that's the opportunity for growth. If I can set my stuff aside and just say, hey, Chris, I want to really hear your heart. What does money mean to you? Where does this come from? Your ability to just be really free. What does that look like for you? And he can begin to unpack that and look at himself. And then not only have I invited the Lord into my heart to attend to that deep wound and need, out of that healing and that truth that he's spoken into me, now I can respond much more gently, much more with caring, less defensive, less critical, and much more Christ-like. And so
Mhm.
that's why we talk about having the opportunity for conflict to help us grow instead of it becoming just a problem to be fixed. Because if we just jump to the problem resolution and fixing it, we forfeit that opportunity to do some self growth and introspection and to hear and grow, hear where our spouse is coming from.
Fascinating. Fascinating and helpful. Let's go to Raj in Oklahoma. Raj, live on the air. Go right ahead with your question or comment.
Yeah, I may get in trouble for saying this, but I wondered what your feelings were. I had read that men and women are wired differently, and that men tend to make most decisions based on logic, but women make decisions based on emotion. And that's a very broad generalization. I wonder what you thought about that.
Doug, what do you think? Let's go to Chris on this question. No, actually, let's hear from both Chris and then Elisa. I'd love to hear from both of you on this.
Yeah, thanks, Raj. I think some of those stereotypes do have this kind of kernel of truth, right? The way we approach the world seems to kind of be built in, and it may be related to our gender. What is interesting is, though, there are a lot of couples in which that's opposite, and so what I think is happening is really the way in which my body responds. Let's say that logical, I need to hide the emotions so that I can, think through this better. So I guess I would say the short answer to your question is we each, come in with a different, maybe emotional language or feelings that kind of come up to the surface right away. And some of us default to wanting to just be logical. But I think the most powerful marriages, the ones that are most happy and successful, are when both of them kind of can connect their heart with their head. They're able to say, when you said this, I think logically about where to go next, Lisa. But I need to kind of tell you that I feel a little bit abandoned right now. Whenever you leave and go out with your friends, it makes me feel, and those men who can balance that understanding a little bit more of their emotions are way more successful. We call them emotionally intelligent. And then the women that can kind of process, let's say they have, that a kind of a bent more towards that feeling. It's learning to trust that and appreciate it, while at the same time recognizing that our emotions can get away from us sometimes and lead us down some messed up paths. So it's really the ones that are more balanced, I think. So, Lisa, what do you think?
I completely agree. And I think the key to that is something that you said earlier, Chris, when you said we've got to be careful that we're not trying to change each other, but instead to see those differences, whichever way they fall, that we see those differences as an opportunity to soften each other, to hear from each other, to gain perspective, and to respect each other's perspective, even though it's different.
Mm.
And even though you may not necessarily agree with one another, if you can simply wrap your mind around the concept that, hey, this other person is different. They see the issue differently. Maybe it's more logical, or they see it from a more emotional point of view. If I can hear that and respect that they have a right to their perspective, I may not agree with it, but you know what? They have every right to their perspective. And if I was in their shoes, seeing it the way they see it, I might feel the same way about it. And so I can receive, let's say if we fell into the stereotypes where Chris was more logical and I'm more emotional, then I am going to be much more willing when I see it from his perspective and validate it. He's going to feel heard. He's going to feel cared for. He's going to feel respected and valued as a member of our team, Team Grace. And then he's going to be much more willing to receive my perspective as well. And then the same, and then it's mutual. It goes the other way around. So I think if we can both grow and we can approach those differences with respect, with validation, with perspective taking, putting yourself in their shoes, seeing it from them, then you actually can attack a problem, I think, much more realistically and much more strongly, and probably
Mm.
creatively as well, and effectively.
So good. So good. I love it. Good, helpful advice. We're going to continue that in just a moment. Well, with your calls, maybe you're in a situation, you need a little advice on how to kind of walk through a marriage conflict, or maybe questions about dating, which is not an uncommon question that they have. Maybe you're single, whatever it may be. We're taking your calls. 877-548-3675. Again, that's 877-548-3675. Chris and Lisa Grace from the Center for Marriage and Relationships at the Talbot School of Theology at Biola University are our guests. And again, taking your calls. Last time with the number 877-548-3675. All right, we're back. Ed Stetzer Live. And of course, we're having a conversation today with Chris and Elisa Grace. We're talking about relationships. And why would we not be talking about relationships on a day like this? It is indeed Valentine's Day. So we're going to continue our conversation with them. We already got some calls lined up, but let me mention to you as well, you're welcome to call in. Maybe you got questions about relationships, how to work through conflict, maybe how to build for a long foundation. By the way, they've been married for 38 years. But our phone number is 877-548-3675, 877-548-3675. Let's go to Dave, well, down somewhere in Florida, listening at 91.1. Dave, you're live on the air. Go ahead.
Thank you, Ed. Something I actually learned a couple years ago, it's been staring us, I think, all in the face, but marriage is designed to make you holy, not happy. And that in order to become holy, you have to have your edges sandpapered every once in a while.
Dave, thank you for your call, man. You're somewhere on the road. I think you're probably driving down I-95 or something. But thank you for your call. And Elisa, what do you think about that? Because I think I like a lot of that. I also want to be happy in my marriage, but I do know that it's certainly been a sanctifying tool in my life. By the way, Elisa, before you answer, I should mention that Donna, my wife, has just texted me that she's listening to the show and her mother is with her. So my wife and mother-in-law are listening. So I need you to say the kinds of things that make me look good in this radio show. So using me as a positive example, what would you say? How is marriage for my holiness?
That's a wonderful subtitle from Gary Thomas's book, Sacred Marriage. What if marriage was meant to make you holy instead of happy? And those two things are not mutually exclusive. That's the beauty of it, is that the process of marriage, you said it, Ed, is that it's a sanctifying process. It's a relationship where you're so intimate, you're so close, living together 24/7, that it can be iron sharpening iron, and then it also becomes a safe and beautiful refuge for you. But how else would you grow in patience? Just like the Lord is so patient with us, how would we grow in patience unless we were living with someone who drove us crazy at times? Right? How would we grow
That's fair.
in a desire to protect our partner unless we really realize how God protects us? When you think of the woman, when Jesus was eating at the religious leader's home, and the host didn't wash Jesus's feet, he didn't give him that customary hospitality. And yet Mary, who was a woman of ill repute, came in and she poured a costly perfume on his feet. She, weeping, wiped his feet with her hair, and with her tears washed his feet. And when that religious leader was like, hey, don't you know who she is? What did Jesus do? He protected her. And when we realize how much God protects us, he stands in the gap for us, that makes me much more able and willing to be protective of my husband. I've got his back. I'm going to defend him. I am in his corner, and I will take a bullet for him. And so it's a sanctifying process. I'm not easy to live with. I can be annoying, and I am certainly aware of that. But it's in that process of living with another imperfect human being that we have the opportunity to grow in being quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to get angry. James 1:19. We get the opportunity to, hey, Lord, check my own heart before I'm calling out his heart. In Matthew, Jesus extols us. He says, hey, man, before you try to get that little speck out of your husband's eye, Lise, then you better start by getting the log out of your own eye. And that's a perfect opportunity for me to sit there and go, wow, Lord, you're right. I spoke harshly to him and out of anger, just quick off the top of my head. And so now I have to repent to the Lord, and now I need to go repent to my husband. And so all of this is a process of like the caller said, rubbing those and softening those hard, sharp edges that we have. When we understand truly and deeply how God loves us and all the facets and aspects of that, then it shapes, as I live with an imperfect person and he lives with me, it shapes both of us in rubbing off those sharp edges that sanctify us in that process. But it couldn't happen if I was living with Mr. Perfect or if he was living with
Yes.
Mrs. Perfect, right?
No, that's so true. That's so true. But I would just like to say publicly on all our 200 plus stations across the country that my wife is not annoying at all. She's the greatest person ever. And I just thought she's listening. I should make that so clear. All right, let's
Way
go
to go, Donna. Way to go.
Yeah, well, exactly. She may
You're
or
a
not,
lucky
may not
man.
be texting me. She may be texting me right now saying that she's not annoying. All right, let's go to Bob in Chicago. Bob, you're live on the air. Go right ahead.
Yes, God bless you all. When my wife and I were looking to get married, we went to there was a program, I think it was through Crew, on how to address marital situations as you were, considering getting married, and where you had a chance to hear and meet a lot of long married people who had expertise, and it was a great blessing. And we both agreed out of that experience that if we ever came into a situation where we had a conflict of opinion on how to move forward on something, we would seek out counseling. Okay, and I haven't heard anybody talk about taking advantage of Christian counselors that could be helpful with marital issues that are having, where a couple are having conflict.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So, Bob, super question. So, Chris, let's go to you. So, and I would probably also put this in two levels, right? So, I if I could, and you can tell me differently, but I would say, when do you seek out advice, which I think is a lower level than counseling, and when do you seek out counseling when conflict? I mean, Bob was saying that sometimes that conflict we couldn't resolve it, we couldn't get agreement, we would do something more. What do you suggest?
Yeah, we suggest exactly what Bob mentioned. There are times where your conflict just feels overwhelming, and you don't know where to go next, and neither of you feel like you have the expertise, but you know something is there that's deeper. So, Bob, I think you really hit on what we recommend as a key point, and that is we start finding somebody near us that speaks into us, a mentor, someone that maybe is older, a parent, and when we get from them the help that we need, well, great, we can then move forward. But often they too lack that experience and expertise. There are so many good people at this point who have made it one goal in their life, and that is to help couples have a marriage that is successful, helpful, and makes them holy. And the best place to go, we have found, is with some trusted Christian experts, those counselors that have dedicated their lives to not just following Jesus, but to knowing, how the heart works, how emotions come into play, the ways in which you deal with conflict. And so places like you said, Cru, Focus on the Family have a great resource. You could call in and say, where are the Christian counselors where I'm at? I'm in the middle of Chicago or Idaho and I need somebody. And they have a list there. And we have a list as well at Biola University of trusted counselors throughout the country. But I think you're absolutely right. Knowing that that resource is there and that they are called by God to help you and to help us, man, it's a great place to start and to explore that. So I think you're on the right track with that.
Mhm. And if
Super.
I
We're
could just
gonna go ahead, Elisa.
if I could just add, Ed, one of the resources that our Center for Marriage and Relationships provides is what we call free relationship advice. And it's that lower level that Chris was talking about. Maybe you're just kind of stuck, or you're just not sure the next step to take, or you just need some help with some perspective and good, old fashioned, godly, professional advice. And so we actually have hours where we have a licensed marriage and family therapist. We have a master's prepared pastoral care and counselor on our staff, as well as Chris and me. And you can actually sign up. You can go on our website and sign up for an appointment with one of us, free for a whole hour. It's your hour, whatever you want to talk about, to get some really good advice. And if we deem during that time that maybe this is something that you need a little bit more professional help, we would let you know that. And then that's where we can help with some referrals to some really solid Christian therapists. But if you're just looking for, hey, I just need some perspective, I need some advice, contact us at the Center for Marriage and Relationships. We'll set up an appointment with one of our counselors, and it's free.
Did you just invite listeners on 250 radio stations across the country?
I did.
All right. Well, let's see how that goes. So if you go to edstetzerlive.com, all the links are right there. What she just talked about, the Center for Marriage and Relationship, go to edstetzerlive.com to get more information about Chris and Lisa Grace there as well. And we're going to continue our conversation. We got one more segment for calls, 877-548-3675. Give us a call. Okay, we're back. We're here with Chris and Lisa Grace. They lead the Center for Marriage and Relationships at Catholic School of Theology, Biola University, and literally she just invited you to book an hour appointment with her, them, or someone if you needed some relational advice. And so bold call across hundreds of radio stations, but here we are. And also you can do that right now as well. Maybe you want to call in and say, help us think through this issue. We've got 10 minutes left in the program. 877-548-3675. Again, that's 877-548-3675. Talking to us a little bit about family of origin. And I don't say that because my wife is sitting with her mom right now, but tell us a little bit about how family of origin sort of fits into some of these questions, and particularly how we handle conflict in marriage. Don and I came from very different kind of environments and how you handle conflict.
Yeah, what I think happens, Ed, is we all kind of almost adopt what we're used to or what we saw. And I was the one who wanted to talk it out. And I think my family of origin was such that if you had an issue or if you had a problem with somebody, a brother, somebody nearby, I kind of learned early on that it was okay to talk about it, to bring up the conflict, just to share it. Well, Elisa's family of origin was a lot different, like you said, in your marriage. She kind of avoided it, and she would run away from it, and it was a sign that things were bad, And so, what we ended up doing was trying to, work through each other's thing. I would literally and figuratively chase her through the house, asking her to talk, to speak, share her words, share anything in her heart. And she just needed more time. And I think, Ed, what happened, that family of origin set us up for a cycle that we had to figure out how are we going to break this? And it starts with Psalm 139, ultimately, right? Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my anxious thoughts. See the hurtful ways in me. And when I started to realize that some of the way I was doing this wasn't helpful for Elisa, I needed to give her more time and space. It was really helpful to recognize that a lot of this was rooted in the way I was raised.
Oh, I think we might have lost you there, Chris. So, all right. Elisa, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm here.
They're still there. Okay, Elisa, I couldn't hear Chris for just a second. So, Elisa, add anything you'd like to what Chris was answering.
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah.
Oh, you're still there. Go ahead, Chris. Go ahead. Keep going.
Well, I think then at that point, the best thing with a family of origin is really taking the time to see, not just all the bad that happened, all of the negative, but also some of the good, what worked, what didn't work. But it takes some time to search your heart. It takes some effort to say, Lord, I think I have some negative ways, as the one as one of your callers said, that ironing, sharpening iron. I have some edges to make me holy. What is it? But what can I do? What's on my heart? What do I need to fix before I see this as my way is the best way? Because it may have not. There's a lot that's not right there. And I think, Elisa, you landed on this as well when you got insight into your family of origin and the way you would run from issues and problems.
Yeah, that family of origin is so important, isn't it, Chris? Because it really does shape the way you love and connect and relate today. And so it really goes back to our childhood caregiving environment and what that was like with our primary caregivers. And it affects what we call attachment style. So there's 4 attachment styles. There's secure, the avoider, the pleaser, the vacillator. And our goal is to really help counteract some of the more negative aspects of our family of origin to help couples form that really good, safe, and secure attachment style. And there's a fabulous book that we recommend that we always have in our center. We're handing it out wherever we go. The book is called How We Love, and it's by Milan and Kay Yurkovich. And it's a foundational book on adult attachment styles because what happened in your childhood really does impact how we relate as adults.
Fascinating. Okay, talk to me a little bit about, we're getting near the end of the show, but what's one practical communication shift? And we'll go to Lisa first. What's one practical communication shift that could significantly change the tone of your marriage this week, Valentine's Day, and beyond? Maybe get one from Elisa and then one from Chris. So, Elisa, you first.
Well, I think one really important communication tool is to learn how to be a good listener. And it's funny because research shows that we rate ourselves as being really good listeners when, if you went through a whole assessment, you would find that we're probably not as good at it as we think we are. But it's the ability to take the initiative, to tell another person, to say, I really care about our relationship. You are so important to me. And this would be for your spouse, your friends, your family members, your children, to be able to take the opportunity to listen. And when you listen, the goal of listening is not to be understood, but to understand the other person. So we always say real listening takes place when I make it my goal to understand rather than to be understood. And so to understand and to listen means I'm going to ask some good questions, like if I'm taking the initiative for Chris to share his heart or his perspective first, I'm going to really listen not only to his words, but to those deeper emotions that he's expressing. And then I'm going to invite questions are your friends. You want to invite them, say, you pick up something on something they said, a certain phrase or word that they use, and ask them, hey, I heard you say this. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Or it sounds like that was really tough for you. Tell me a little bit more about what was that like for you? And so ask some good open-ended questions and then listen in order to understand and listen beyond the words for those emotions and then paraphrase what you hear, validate it. Yeah, I can see why you would feel that way. If I would feel that way too if I were in your shoes. And then rephrase it, paraphrase it back and ask them, did I get that right? So I think that's key, is being a really good listener.
Chris, we got less than a minute left in the program. Give us one kind of closing thought on strengthening our relationships.
Sure. I would say if you are similar to what Elisa just said, if you're in a dating relationship or a friend relationship, another phrase that's helpful is it's better to be interested than interesting. If you're trying to meet people, ask the art of the question, be interested. Too many times people are so trying to be interesting and show everything they have, and then they run out of things to say. But if there's one final thing that I would say for couples, it's recognizing that if they change one word, it's this. Oftentimes we say, I have to go do this. I have to put up with the kids. I have to go do the laundry. I have to do this. And change that to get to. What it does is it kind of begins to grow this heart of gratitude. So instead of saying, I have to do this, I get to. It's a powerful change that increases gratitude for all of us.
Super conversation with Chris and Elisa Grace. Thankful for the work at the Center for Marriage and Relationships at Biola. Let me thank our team as well. We've got a great team at Moody Radio. And to hear today's program again, go to edstetserlive.com. Finally, Ed Stetzer Live is a production of Moody Radio, a ministry of Moody Bible Institute.